Topaz Adizes is an Emmy Award and winning writer, director, experience, design, architect. His work has been featured at Cannes, at Sundance, at IDFA, at South by Southwest. He is the author of 12 Questions for Love, a guide to intimate conversations and deeper relationships. Welcome to the show, Topaz.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to be on.
Excited to have you on. Tell us a little about your personal life, more about your work, why you do what you do.
Well, the last 11 years, my team and I at the Skin Deep, we're an experience design studio. We've been holding the space for people to have incredible conversations. And that project is called The And. Why The And? Because the relationship is you and I, us and them. It's the and that connects us. It's the and that's the conjunction, if you will. And so for the last 11th year now, we've had over 1,200 conversations that we've filmed with 3 cameras and all kinds of conversations that are deep, cathartic, incredible, and we have a beautiful community online. And I think, it's just rare that you get an opportunity to be a witness to all these intimate conversations. And so the book is really a learning. It's a distillation of what we've learned from holding the space for so many conversations.
What makes something an intimate conversation?
Vulnerability, vulnerability, I think, courage to step into the vulnerability. And you don't even have to actually say anything to have an intimate conversation. You can just be in one. What I mean by that is like what I've seen from 10 years of doing it. Well, when we wrote the book, 10 years and 1,200 conversations of all kinds of relationships, fathers and sons, grandparents and grandchildren, lovers, people who have been married for 15, 20 years, people who are dating. It's the ability to ask the question and to sit in that space, even if you don't come up with the answer. But are you asking the questions? And are you, as in any type of relationship, are you sitting in the discomfort of that place of exploring that question? And I think at the core of the intimacy is vulnerability, is being able to sit in that space.
Is it that is hard. There's no doubt about that. So I'm interested in talking about why that's hard and can I have it if I don't have the right questions?
So I don't have right or wrong questions. I just have there's better questions and there's not so good questions, right? So there's well constructed questions that can set you up to really be successful. And then there's other questions that'll make it more difficult. So let's give an example. If you ask in the context of your relationship, why do we fight so much? Well, it's not a right or wrong question, but that might not be as constructive as what's our biggest conflict right now and what is it teaching us? Because we have to remember that the mind is built to protect while the heart is built to connect,
Hmm.
right? It's a nice little, it rhymes to remember it. But if you ask your mind, why do we fight so much? Your mind is going to serve the question. It's going to go out and find the answers. Why do we fight so much? Because our mind is always built to protect, so it's going to go and find the answers. It's looking for the answers. It's looking for the answers. So if you ask it a question that's going to give you a litany of reasons why you fight so much, how empowering is that? How constructive is that in the shape of your relationship? Versus if you ask the mind, hey, what's our biggest conflict right now and what is it teaching us? That's giving it a bit more of a empowering and one that gives you more agency, making it more constructive. Because what is this challenge that we have that's teaching us? And there's also something about the shaping of the question, right? So if I said, what is our biggest conflict and what is it teaching us? It's helpful because what is it teaching us places the conflict in a way of learning. But by me saying to you, asking you, what is our biggest conflict? That's giving you the arbiter of truth. Because you're going to say, well, our biggest conflict is this. Objectively, this is, but I can improve that question by saying, what do you think is our biggest challenge? And what is it teaching us? And by what do you feel is our biggest challenge? By putting do you think or do you feel, now you're not the arbiter of the objective truth. You're the arbiter of your own subjective experience. And that makes it a bit less of a conflict, right? We're not going to fight over what is the objective reality between us. That's your experience. So you can even improve that question. What do you feel is the biggest conflict in our relationship right now? And what is it teaching us? And the point from this in the book and that I've learned from all this is that there's so much power in the questions. And we are so trained in our society to find the answers and state the answers that we don't realize the power is in the question. So instead of looking for answers, create better questions.
I love everything about that.
Thanks.
What is the, what is there an objective of conversations?
Oh yeah, it's a different kind, right? So let's be clear, like what kind of conversation are we having? Are we having the conversation to decide where we're going to have dinner tonight? Are we having the conversation to decide what we're going to do with our finances? Are we having the conversation to decide how we're going to raise our child? That's one thing. Are we having another conversation where we're exploring our emotions, our relationships? It's a different kind of conversation, right? Are we having a conversation where we're purely going to have a good time and we're not actually going to talk about anything serious whatsoever? Great. Let us be clear about this, the kind of conversation we're having. And that to me akins to the house, right? You're not going to cook in your bedroom. And you're not going to go to the bathroom in the kitchen. You're going to do certain things in the kitchen, certain things in the bedroom, certain things in the bathroom. We should make those spaces also intentional in our conversations. I mean, much like you would in a business, some meetings are there to check up checklists. Some meetings are there to brainstorm about strategy. Some meetings are there to do a qualitative evaluation. You know, you have different kinds of meetings. So why don't we have different kinds of conversations in our relationships and make it clear? Because the last thing you want is your partner showing up to you and saying, "We got to talk." Right? I
For
mean,
sure.
when you hear that, your instinct is holy shit, and you start like you pull out your mind comes to the. I'm going to protect. You're like, okay, where's the problem? Oh, here we go. How do we avoid that? Well, we do maintenance checks. We have weekly check-ins conversations. We create the space for those kinds of conversations to alleviate the pressure and work through the challenges that we currently have. Because if we don't, what ends up happening is that the pain of the the conflict or the tension that's not acknowledged or handled, just that pain continues to build until the point that you have to handle it. And that's why your partner or you go to your partner and say, "Hey, we got to talk." Or to your friend or to your dad or whoever it is. So how do we, so if we can bring more intentionality to our awareness of what kind of conversations we have, and definitely have an exploratory talk, one that explores your relationship, your dynamic, your patterns that you have once a week, once a month, right? And explore that. So that way, when you have it, otherwise you're going to have it every 2, 3 years or whenever there's enough pain. And then it's always super challenging to have those conversations. They're supercharged and there's all pent up disappointment, expectations, aggression, and that makes it more challenging.
For each of these, for the conversations in the kitchen, should I
Mm-hmm.
be thinking about and being mindful of using my heart versus my mind? Is it all the time?
So, like, it's so funny. You know, it's, everyone says, well, the heart, the mind, we use it. Well, it's all one thing. It's all integrated. It's all holistic, right? But what serves what? And so, a friend of mine, she gave me a great quote. I was in Austin 2 weeks ago, and her name's Samantha, and she's an artist, and she says we should allow our minds to be the altar. We should train our minds to be the altar upon which our hearts sit.
Hmm.
I thought it was a beautiful line, and what that reminds me of, what makes me think of, is what's serving what, and the mind should be in service to the heart because the heart is built to connect. And what's the payoff of this whole conversation? Like, why do this? Why? It's because when you connect with the people you're closest to, your sense of what it means to be alive as a human being is revitalized, it's energized, it's more fulfilling. Right? If we are often in our own silos, if we're on our superficial relationships, we're not really exploring things, that's fine, but we're missing the opportunity to go deeper. Did I lose you?
Nope. I
Sorry,
think that that's
I
right.
dropped out. Right? So that to me is when someone goes, well, great, okay, cool, but why? What's the investment here? What's the payoff to the investment? It's that. It's a greater sense of what it means to be alive. It's a greater sense of the human experience. And yeah. But you asked, what was your question that you asked you? Because I kind of went on a,
Just whether or not we should reserve the brain for certain talks and the heart for others.
I just think we should have the brain in service to the heart. And
Yeah.
so how can we do that is by the questions we ask. So if you went to your partner and you're pissed off because they did something that hurt you, and you go, why'd you do this? That's you're coming at them in an aggressive manner. They're going to be against the wall. They're going to protect themselves. They're not giving you an opportunity to actually connect. So before you go to them, tap into your curiosity. I'm in a relationship with this partner, or I'm with my business partner, or my father, or my best friend, my brother, my sister, and they did this action and it hurt, or it's confusing, and you're upset. And what do you want from them? You want them to apologize? You want to hear them say sorry? What do you want to hear from them? Okay, well, that's an agenda. You want to have a certain end. What I suggest is come to the thing with an intention, which is the beginning. Intention is where you come from in the beginning. Agenda is where you expect to end up at. If you come to someone with an agenda, they can feel it. And that's your mind working out, because now your mind's in control and you're playing chess. And you ask them a question. How often are you asked a question by someone and you just instantly know, okay, we're playing mental chess right now and I'm defending myself. And how do you create the space for someone to actually, to us to have exploratory? If you're asking the question and you're coming at it with an agenda, then let's go back to the intention, and the way to tap into is your own curiosity. I want to know why my sister did that action. Not that I want her to apologize. I first want to know why, because I thought we have a loving relationship, or we're in this, or how did this come up? How did they make this mistake? So ask the question from a place of curiosity, because that is the underlying intention of curiosity exploration, right? If you come at it with an agenda, now your mind is at play, and now we are two minds kind of fencing, if you will, or playing chess instead of actually connecting.
More combative versus collaborative.
Yeah. And how do you create the space for that, right? It's a lot about the spaces. So,
Hmm.
and what I mean by that is very simply, let's give an example. If you're home and your partner comes home and goes, "Why do you love me?" out of the blue, the space has not been created for you to really explore that. You're just wondering, where is this coming from? So that's the question you're answering. Where is this coming from? Not, why do you love me? Or vice versa. If they came home and said, "George, I love you so much from here to the moon," and da 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 da, you're not really receiving that, because you're wondering, where's this coming from? What happened? Now, if we just create the space, for instance, we have card games that we sell, 12 editions, 200 questions in a box. If you come and say, "Hey, let's play this card game," right? Oh, there's a space. The intention is we're going to play this card game. It's exploratory. Boom, you pull out a random card where it says, "Why do you love me?" Where it says, why do you love me? Oh, now you're not wondering why they're asking this question. Because you're playing a game. It's a random card out of a box, right? If they tell you why they love you so much, they're answering the question. You're not rejecting it. You're not wondering why they're telling you this. You know why they're telling you this. You're having an experience. You're playing a card game. So the card game creates a space for one to give and for the other to receive. And so how do we create those spaces in our real lives? If it's a card game, great. If it's not, you can say, "Hey, let's have a conversation by the fire." Road trips are great because we're in the space, there's nowhere to go. You say, "Hey, let's ask each other questions. Let's have a conversation." So when we embark on conversation, let's just create the space by setting an intention. "Hey, let's do this. Let's play this game. Let's do," right? And then ask well-constructed questions.
I love everything about that.
Yeah.
Do you advocate that we have, for lack of a better term, standing conversations?
What is that? Tell me more about that.
Just that I have a conversation every Monday night at 5 o'clock with my wife, and we do it, while making dinner. Or
Boom. I call it a practice. Make it a practice, because what you practice, you get good at. So make it a practice. You know, um, I think it's really important to create a practice, just like you would practice exercise or work is a practice. You show up every day at a certain time. You check out at a certain time. What we practice, we get good at. Why aren't we practicing better communication with our partners? Not even better, but just explore conversations that remind us what it means to be alive, what it means on this journey of life. You're going through this, you're having this experience, growing journey, meeting people, building things, learning things. Don't you want to share that with someone? Don't you also want to share that with the people closest to you? How can you do that in a way that's constructive? How can you do that in a way that's connective? That's all in the book, right? That's the intention of, and let's go back, much like you. I watched some of your interviews and your podcasts. When you started, you were doing about, you want to teach people. Correct? I mean, I assume this. So you say this in one soundbite, but you were teaching people about financial literacy and finances, because it was just kind of like this gray zone for a lot of people. So you're offering value that way. Where do we learn how to have deeper, more meaningful conversations? Who teaches us that?
Nobody.
Yeah. We get it modeled in our families, which may or may not be good modeling, maybe through our friends. But where do we learn that? Fortunately for my team and I, we've learned that by actually doing it for 10 years, 12, now in our 11th year, over 1,200 conversations. Oh, wow, this works. This doesn't work. This is a really good question. Why? This question goes really well after this question. How do we better hold a space? How do we intention without bringing an agenda to it? And so I think it's one of the most overlooked things is that ultimately, as a human being, we want to be seen, I believe. You want to be seen. You want to know that you're seen, heard. And conversations are a great way to do that with our intimate, but we don't learn that anywhere. And so that's my offering. That's the offering of the book. That's what my team and I offer through all our content that we film.
I think it's such a powerful thing. I've long held the belief that our knowledge, that our undivided attention is one of the greatest gifts that we can give to another human being. And that you've been doing this for over 10 years suggests and means that you predate safe spaces and trigger warnings, as well as phones being ubiquitous. What do you think about all that?
I think they're really helpful tools. Like the phone is a really helpful tool. The question is, how are you using your tool? And if you look at, if you go to dinner and you look across the restaurant and you see a couple or a family on their phones instead of talking to each other, I understand it because they get quick, small dopamine hits with every swipe, right? They're just getting, that's what the machine is built. The machine is built to be a dopamine addicting machine to take your attention. Because in the future, already now, I've been saying this for years, but after water and air, like the most valuable commodity is people's attention. So it's grabbing your attention. Okay. And fine, you're giving it attention, you get a little dopamine hit. Okay. But what if I told you, put the phone down, create the space by just saying, hey, let's have a great little exploratory conversation. We're going to ask these random questions. Ask a good, well constructed question, like from our deck, or create one yourself or from the book. Okay. And instead of getting the dopamine hit in 1 minute, you'll get it in 12 minutes. And it will be exponentially, to the triple effect of what you would on the phone for 12 minutes. Where would you spend your time? If I'm telling you that you can get a hit of dopamine that is much greater and bigger than you could from the same amount of time on the phone, that will reinforce the relationship with the people around you. Where would you spend it? I think it's
What,
just a simple equation,
for sure.
but we don't know how to do it. We're not, it's again, where we taught this, how we model this.
Hmm.
So that's the offering. That's the learning. I think that's what's really powerful. And when I see, and it's not to say that sometimes you're in a relationship where you're sitting with your family, you're sitting, or your wife, you're sitting there, partner, and there's nothing to talk. Right now, there's nothing to talk about, and you're sitting in silence together. That's okay. It's not like we have to talk all the time. But if you ask yourself a new question that you haven't asked before, that connects two separate things or puts you in the other person's shoes, oh, now there's a space to explore. Oh, now my mind is going to searching for the answer.
Do you get better at questions by practicing? It's like
Oh
anything
yeah.
else.
Well, the thing is now that we film about 3, 4, 5 times a year, and we just got back from Austin about 3 weeks ago. We filmed, and one of the questionnaires that we have, because so many people at this point, people fly in, drive in. It's such an honor at this point. We have people who have been following the Skin Deep for 10 years, and they play our card games, they watch our videos. So every time, and one of the questionnaires is how many of our videos and how much of the card games have you played, have you watched? Because that tells me, okay, I have to keep creating new questions, right? And that's a great challenge for me because I'm always creating new questions, more challenging questions, or ones that explore different aspects. Because a lot of our community now that come on to be on the end or that apply, they're very familiar with our questions. They're very familiar with our content. Their relationships are informed by what they've seen on our videos because they say, "Oh, this kind of relationship is possible. This way of communicating is possible. I can model that." So I don't know if you're getting better at if I'm getting better at questions, but I'm definitely making newer ones.
Well, I think to some degree, it is a bit like a martial art, having a conversation and
Mm,
having a practice. So I think it's
mm,
like all those things. First time you do it, you try to have an uncomfortable conversation. You try to be vulnerable with somebody else. If you've never done it before, it's not going to go awesome, but it's going to go a lot better the fifth time you do it and the 100th time you do it, certainly.
definitely. And I think Carl Jung has some kind of quote where he says that a good conversation or a good exchange with another human being is like a chemical reaction. It leaves both parties changed,
Hmm.
right? Both are changed. And I've seen that so many times in our conversations that we film on the end. You know, it's happened to me. I've seen it happen to other people all the time. And it's really an honor to hold the space for that. And then offer it now through the book into people's lives so they can learn how to do it themselves, so they can learn how to ride the bike themselves.
Yeah. Can anybody get good at this?
I think so. Absolutely. I don't think it's very, well, it's funny. Like for me, I say I don't think it's very difficult, but then again, to me, I'm in the center of it. So maybe for me, it's probably a natural instinct inclination. But I would say for anybody who this stuff resonates, just I would say buy the book, get it, and just start the practice. And like you just said it, you know at the beginning you're not gonna be great at it, but when you first rode your bike, were you great at it? No, you just kept doing it. And now you can ride the bike with your do wheelies and keep even hold the handlebars. It takes practice. What we practice, we get good at. So let go, be graceful in your exploration of your relationship with others. Don't have an agenda of because oftentimes we have two people, one person really wants to play, and the other one does not, right? But the other person enters into the conversation because their partner really wants to do it, and that's all you need. And the partner who's invited the other one into it, you have to let go of your agenda or your concerns that they have to respond in a certain way. The fact that they're there, the fact that they're participating, is enough. Let them be them, and that is a bigger invitation to them to keep stepping forward and exploring and practicing. Right?
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Topaz, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people learn more about you? Where can they get their copy of 12 Questions for Love, a guide to intimate conversations and deeper relationships? And where can they explore all other things, Topaz?
So thanks. The book is available everywhere and anywhere. Amazon. It's wherever you get your audiobooks. I mean, it's all out there. It's all our videos, all our content, all our products, all our card games is at theskindeep.com. Theskindeep.com. Obviously, I have my own website, topazadizes.com. But really, all our content, all our products, all the things we're offering here is theskindeep.com. That's also on all the socials, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and such.
Excellent. Well, if you enjoyed as much as I did, show Topaz your appreciation. Share today's show with a friend who also appreciates good ideas. Go to theskindeep.com and check out everything we've been talking about. Um, And I know I was thinking about some of the finest conversationalists I know and what a joy that they are to be able to engage with and the power of a good question and how we can all certainly get better at it. And I think it's so great that you have taken the time to create what you've created and essentially given people the training to be able to have these important conversations that too few of us have these days. So thank you again, Topaz.
Thanks a lot, George. Have a good one.
Until next time, remember, do your part by doing your best.